All right, YouTube family, today's video will be on how to reduce the trigger pull weight on your Taurus GX4. All right, so I just finished reading the YouTube firearm policy once again, and for the last few weeks, I've been trying to figure out how I was going to do this video, okay? Now, per the rules, you can't show or explain to viewers how to modify or install a component that will make the firearm simulate automatic fire. Okay, so 2-pound trigger, I can't show you that. I can't explain that, because a 2-pound trigger you can fire fast enough to where it would sound like automatic fire, or basically you can simulate automatic fire because it's just not enough resistance. All right, most of you not going to carry a gun like that anyway. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll explain to you how to get in the 3.5 to 4.5 pound range. Okay, you'll definitely be under 5 pounds. So that should be good enough for some of you guys, because some of you guys are telling me that you have a 6-pound trigger, 7-pound trigger, 8-pound trigger on your stock Taurus GX4. Now it shouldn't be that high. It should be at least between 5 and 6, but you guys would know better than I would, and every gun is it can be different. All right, so what we'll do is, I can't break it down and show you, but I'll just explain it to you guys. All right, because another one of the rules is you can't show on YouTube how to disassemble or reassemble a lower receiver. You can do the upper, but not the lower. So like when I take the slide off and I show you guys, how to take off the slide cover plate and all that kind of stuff, that's fine per the rules. But the rules definitely state that, you can't explain or show how to disassemble the lower receiver or put one back together. I guess that happened when they came with all of the companies that had the lowers that you could switch out on your different Glocks and stuff like that. And you had to, kind of like take it from them, how they shipped it to you. And then you had to put the holes in it, and you had to, do the little finishing techniques just to make it work. So, but this won't be one of those videos. All right, so let's get into it. All right. Now, the first thing I'm going to say that's going to get you a lower trigger pull is, guys, you got to go to the range. When you first get the gun, the trigger pull is going to be the strongest. Okay. So just by going to the range, firing 50 to 100 rounds, you'll notice the reduction, at least half a pound, sometimes up to 3/4 or a full pound. All right, just from doing that. So just by shooting the gun, the trigger pull will lighten up. All right, so make sure you've done that already before you get in the comments and say, oh no, it didn't get down to that weight, that kind of thing. All right, now after you have at least broken your trigger in, okay, and at least oiled your firearm one time, all right, and oiling especially those points that I showed you on my other oiling videos, okay? After you have done that, then now you're ready for the next step. All right, so this is the firing pin spring. If you don't know how to get to your firing pin, then don't even attempt this mod. All right, just take it to somebody and explain to them, what you want to do, okay? Now, for those that do, here's what you do. Take your firing pin out, take your spring off. Set your stock spring to the side and label it, okay? Now, order you some Wolf 5-pound firing pin springs. Order you a pack of 3, okay? When the spring comes in, take one of the springs, and you're going to count the coils, okay? First one here, 1 full revolution around, of course, that's 1, and so on, and just go up, okay? Now, what you want to do is cut it at 15.5 coils, okay? Cut it at 15.5 coils. Now, that's part 1 of the process. Once you cut it, and you have it at 15.5 coils, that step is completed. The next step is you want to polish your internals. Okay, so those of you that's familiar with polishing, you already know what I'm talking about. Now, this gun does differ from a Glock in the sense that it does not have a connector. Glocks have connectors, okay? The GS4 does not have a connector bar on the inside that you can just swap out. That will give you an automatic reduction, in trigger pull weight. So GX4 doesn't have connectors. All right, so any of the friction parts on the inside, once you break it down, polish those up real well. All right, and the better you polish it, the smoother the trigger will be. But just like with the spring, polishing is only going to do so much. All right, it's just a part and one of the steps that'll get it smooth and lower the trigger pull weight. But it'll be a threshold. Like once you get it all polished up, it's only so far that it'll go, and then it'll stop, right there as far as how much weight you're able to shave off. The same with the spring. With the spring, you might say, well, hey, what if I do less than 15.5 coils? Anything less than 15.5 coils will make your trigger feel squishy, and it's not going to reduce the trigger pull weight any lower. Okay, 15.5 coils is the amount, the most that you want to be at, or I should say the threshold. So that's the minimum amount you want. You don't want to go any less than that. All right, trust me, I've tried it. I've done about 3 or 4 springs ranging from 17 coils all the way down to 13 coils. All right, so just take my advice on that. Your trigger pull is not going to get any lower. It's just going to make the trigger feel a lot worse, because there are other components that factor into, reducing the pull weight. All right, and those of you that know your way around a firearm, you already know what I'm talking about. It's pretty much the same for any polymer handgun or Glock-like handgun. You know what I mean? That's out right now. So, all right, those are the first 2 steps. Along with breaking in your handgun, we already went over that. So I guess you can say these are the second and the third step. All right, the last step would be, what you would want to do is, after you polished everything up on the inside, clean your gun. And then when you reassemble everything, oil it, and oil those points that I said to oil on any of my gun oiling videos. All right, because the trigger pull, what I've noticed is the trigger pull is always less when the gun is cleaned and oiled. Okay, so you want to keep everything in optimal condition, especially if you're carrying it on your as a defense firearm. All right, now once you do those 4 things, all right, breaking the gun in, cutting the wolf spring down, polishing the internals, and then cleaning and oiling the gun and putting it back together, then you'll be in that range of anywhere between 3.5 to 4.5 pounds on your trigger pull weight. All right, and then you definitely should be under 5, especially if you already broken the gun in. So just keep in mind, if you haven't broken the gun in, then your readings are going to be higher. Now, here's the trigger pull gauge, and I'm going to do about 3 or 4 pulls. All right, so for some of you that in the comments and it's saying, oh, there's no way you got your trigger pulled down to 2 pounds, your gauge is broken, isn't that? It's not broke. All right, this gauge is just as accurate as the other gauge. I have another gauge that I've taken readings from these guns with, and they come around all around the same pull weight. Okay, this is a brand new gauge. Okay, ignorance will allow people to make a comment just because they don't know. That's what being ignorant is. You don't have the knowledge, or you lack the knowledge on something. So you think that, everybody else can't possibly know how to do something. All right. That just means you don't know how to do it, for those that, jump in the comments. And I know we live in the days of, people troll, or people actually make genuine comments, but then you got some people that just jump in the comments and just say stuff without thinking, you know. So to each his own. It's no problem. You know, we have fun on this channel. We're not worried about stuff like that. So, but I'll go ahead and I'll take a few pulls. All right. Now keep in mind, when you take your pulls, you want this rod to be parallel to the slide. Okay. You don't want to pull it up. You don't want to pull it down. You want to pull it straight back. All right. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, rest your gun. Make sure the gun can't move. So when you take the pull, only thing that's moving is the trigger pull gauge. All right. And like I say, make sure you take it from the bottom of the trigger. When you shoot these guns, it takes less pressure when you pull from the bottom of the trigger. All right. If you're in the middle of the trigger, your reading is going to be high. All right. Or it's going to be harder to pull back if you know you're firing a gun. All right. So just keep that in mind. Always take your pull from the bottom part. All right. And when I do these pulls off camera, I actually have the gun, the bottom of the gun up against my bench here that I can't move it, you know, and then I get it. But just so you guys can see the reading, I can't get it to that point because then I will be off camera. All right. So I just want to show you so you guys can see that, you know, the video is not edited or, you know, none of that trickery and stuff going on. All right. So I'll just make sure I don't move the gun. All right. First pull, you see what that is, right? 3 pounds, 8.9 ounces. Because I got the magazine in, we don't need to pull the slide all the way back. And we'll take an average of these two, because with this trigger pull gauge, it'll give you an average. £3, 7.2 ounces. So y'all see this, right? So don't tell me you can't get a trigger down to 2 pounds, okay? It is very possible. You just have to know what you're doing. £3, 4.8 ounces. And what I've been noticing is usually the more you do this dry fire or you do your trigger pulls, for my firearms, the number usually gets lower. I don't know if it's because the friction creates heat. You know, we got a little bit of oil on those points and it just gets a little bit smoother. But I've noticed that ever since I've gotten this trigger pull gauge. All right, we'll just do one last one so you can see. See what I'm saying? That was 3 pounds, 2.9 ounces. All right. So you can see the average. 3 pounds, 6 ounces. So that's right around 3.5 pounds. So you guys seen that, right? There was no editing on the video. You didn't see the screen jump, you know, or any of that foolishness. And as I was doing the trick from the first trigger pull, the gun was cold. Okay. So if I would have been in here dry firing the gun, you know, it probably would have started off at around 3.5 and then started going down from there. But, you know, I just wanted to show you guys how that actually works. Okay. So as you can see, I went up from the 2 pound because I can't show you guys that. I can't, you know, I'm definitely not trying to get strikes on my channel, and I'm definitely not trying to get any videos pulled down or, you know, get banned when I just started the channel. All right. So, but you can see I gave you 4 steps right there that'll get you to 3.5 pounds. All right. Now, if you want to go lower than that, then there's some other things that you'll have to do to the firearm that don't pertain to these that I mentioned in the video, because you're maxed out. Okay. You can't cut the spring anymore. And if you do, you'll see yourself, you'll find out exactly what I said. That will just make your trigger feel worse, and it'll make it feel squishy after that point. It's only so much polishing you can do. You see what I'm saying? So when you start polishing the internals, there's only so much polishing that you can do. So you're maxed out there. And then, you know, the more you shoot the gun and break it in, it's only so much that's going to reduce your trigger pull. So trust me, I've been doing this stuff a long time. All right. So if you want to get lower than 3.5 pounds, then those of you that know your way around a firearm, once you pull the lower apart, even though it doesn't have a connector, there's other things that you can do. There's some other components that I didn't mention, you know, that you can modify that would get you a lower trigger pull rate. You would just have to know what you need to do to modify those. Okay. So, but 3.5 pounds should be pretty good. Okay. So guys, stay around 3.5 to 4.5, especially for a defensive handgun. And this gun has a pretty good trigger out of the box. It always has that wall. So even though we reduced it down to 3.5 pounds, it still has that distinctive wall. But it's a good feel, you know, so it won't allow you to accidentally shoot yourself, because when you hit that wall, you know, if your finger is in there, you'll know that you're at the wall, you know. So all right, that's it for today, guys. Thanks.